Go Queen, love me, I know you do. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about allies. Allies of convenience, allies of filling what our army cannot do. And that can be in three different roles. One is, well, farming. One of the biggest things in 40k is trying to get as many command points as possible. This can be achieved by taking certain allies that are very cheap. We're going to be talking about AdMech, and we're going to be talking about Imperial Guardsmen. Now, there's another one, offense. Offense is some close combat units that are ridiculously good at getting into your opponent's face, being the huge distraction that you need, or the hammer that you actually need to deal with certain close combat units. For the most part, we're going to be talking about Custodians and Blood Angels for that. Then we have the long-range capability, something that fills the role of long-range firepower because Sisters of Battle do not have that. We're going to be looking at Space Marines for that, just generic Space Marines, and then maybe filling up the flyer role. I'm going to roll that into this video as well. So, without further ado, let's take a look at some models and let's talk about this. So, as I said before, allies are broken up into three categories: long range, close range, and farming. So let's go over the easiest ones first, which is farming. Farming is achieved by building a battalion or brigade detachment so that you can get as many command points as possible. This is achieved by taking ally units and taking min squads. Usually what people do, like myself, is they'll take Imperial Guardsmen, which these are clearly Imperial Guardsmen, shush your face, drink the lemonade. Anyway, these are clearly Imperial Guardsmen. Usually what people will do is take 3 squads Guardsmen, 2 company commanders, and it's roughly really dirt cheap. But there is an alternative. You can bring a brigade detachment of AdMech for just under 1,000 points. So keep this in mind when you want to farm for command points, especially if you're playing in bigger games. But AdMech aside and joke builds aside, Imperial Guardsmen are where you're going to go for this. 3 squads with a mortar each, 2 company commanders, is I think somewhere around a little over, I think it's like $260. I could be wrong on the price, but I know it's really cheap. Now, they don't really add much to your army. They hold backfield objectives and may deny people from deep striking, which overall is kind of pointless in this current edition, because deep striking has been so nerfed into the ground that no one's really using it. But just in case, you can line these guys on along the back, 8 inches away from the back, so that no one can really deep strike back there, as well as putting them next to an objective. Never really going to move them and keep the mortar out of line of sight and just fire with it. Or you can hide the entire unit on the first floor of a building and just keep firing with the mortar. Overall, they're very effective for what they do. For less than 300 points, you are getting an additional, I think, 10 command points. It's ridiculous. She's getting a brigade, which I think a brigade is 5, which is now 7. Anyway. So farming aside, I cannot remember how many points a brigade gives you. I cannot believe that. We're going to move on to the next ones. Now, you can do this with AdMech and Imperial Guardsmen, depending on how you want to run your army. The next one is long-range firepower, and there is nothing scarier than seeing one of these things on the battlefield. This is a Castellan Imperial Knight. It has 4 melta-guns, 2 cannons on its shoulders, the Hellstrike missiles, has the Plasma Annihilator and the Lance itself. This thing is extremely effective at both close and long-range combat, getting 12 attacks against infantry, as well as having a plethora of long-range capabilities and mid-range capabilities with its melta-guns. This thing would be an excellent addition to a Sister of Battle army because it's so big, menacing, and scary. Your opponent will target it to try to neutralize it while your sisters move harmlessly up the battlefield, meaning your Dominions and your Seraphim get right into range. This is very good because If they don't deal with this, this thing is going to run and wreak havoc on your opponent. If they do deal with it, well, it kind of does suck. Let's face it, you lost a lot of points, but at the same time, you can rotate ion shields, keeping this thing alive with a 4-up invulnerable save, and trying to keep it in the game. Also, you can stack sisters around it to keep it so that it can't be assaulted. Keep it out of close combat until you're ready to charge with it. This forces your opponent to play around it, meaning your opponent is not going to target delicate units. And by that I mean your Seraphim and your Battle Sisters that need to walk up the battlefield. Although it is a giant point sink, and if it doesn't work, it just kind of sits and dies in the water. I did not turn on the LEDs on this one today. I apologize about that. And if you guys do want to know, this is part of House Kane, which is the current Imperial Knight household for the channel itself. House Kane is based entirely off of my actual family. They have the crests on them and everything, and the family sigils and the family colors. This one is Diane, this one is Victor. They are named after family members. Now, little thing aside, we'll move him over and out of frame, hopefully. Oh, well, he's too big to get out of frame. Next, we have more long range. Now, your typical Space Marines are pretty decent long range. They're fairly low costed. These are painted like garbage, and I do apologize, and I will be repainted very soon. But they provide las cannons. Las cannons, heavy plasma guns, and Primaris Marines make an excellent ally for our Sisters of Battle, especially Dark Angels or Salamanders, because Dark Angels can reroll ones if they stand still, where Salamanders can reroll one guy in the unit can reroll to hit, and then another guy or the same guy in the unit can reroll to wound, making them pretty effective, and you can take a Smash Captain with them. Here we have Narastani, 4th Company Captain of the Sons of Garrow. The other way you can run your Space Marine ally is as Blood Angels, where you take close combat units and you rush your opponent with a Slam Captain, a Chaplain or Librarian, or another Slam Captain, and you take a bunch of Assault Marines, and you rush at your opponent as quickly as possible. These don't give you a lot of command points. In fact, it only gives you 1 for the 3 fast attack, 2 HQs, or you do the 3 heavy supports and 1 HQ unit. On the flip side, you can actually take Azrael with the Dark Angels and have them reroll everything, and have a 4-up invulnerable save. So your opponent has to dig through a 4-up invulnerable save across the entire army. Space Marines are a very, very good ally, but they're also Space Marines. Some people are going to question that. Other people who play the game a lot will understand that. Moving aside, we have our close combat characters. That would be the Blood Angels with Sanguinary Guard, with Assault Marines, with Death Company, rushing into your opponent's face, as just explained, and killing things. This allows Seraphim to get up to delicate units, Dominions to get up to delicate units, and throws a lot in your opponent's face turn 1. Doing this kind of strategy is extremely efficient because it takes your opponent for the most part off guard. They will be forced to castle up, and you can grab objectives with smaller units of infantry, meaning your sisters that are in rhinos who are on foot can actually hold objectives. Moving away from Space Marines, we have my personal favorite ally to Sisters of Battle, which is Custodians. These 3 shield captains on Dawn Eagle Jetbike are the perfect addition to a Sister of Battle army. They provide plenty of close quarters combat as well as plenty of shots with their Hurricane Bolters. Be aware Custodians suffer going into vehicles, tanks especially. With toughness 7, they can actually hold them back quite a bit. Their strength is only 7. You gotta keep that in mind. Really good for killing infantry, really good for tying up certain units, really good for hitting airplanes, but against tanks they won't do it. So if you take a complement of Sisters of Battle with them, Dominions with Meltaguns, Seraphim with Inferno Pistols, the rest of the army rushing up with Bolter, Storm Bolter, and Heavy Bolter behind them, it will be an excellent, excellent unit to pair with them. Now, all of that being said, a good combination of 3 different units, for instance, can come in handy. For starters, I could take Imperial Guard, get the bunch of command points from them, take a unit of Custodians, take 3 Dawn Eagle Jetbike Shield Captains, and then take Ebon Chalice or Bloody Rose, and have all of the benefits of the command points, as well as all of the benefits of the close combat capabilities of this army, and have all of the melt-guns to deal with tanks that they can't handle, as well as having backfield objective holding. Now, you can combine this any way that you choose to do. For me, for instance, I've combined Sisters of Battle with my Sons of Garrow on numerous occasions. It's more for a narrative purpose than an effective purpose. I have combined him with the Sisters of Battle quite a bit. He is devastating with them. Or I've combined a close combat knight, Diane here, with my Sisters of Battle. Because this guy, or girl in this case, is devastating in close combat. With a Titan Fist and a Chainsword, really efficient in close combat. It has a stubber and a something else, I forgot. So it's not really dealing too much close range combat, long range combat, but it is getting in there and killing the things that your sisters can't do. The one thing that you want to look for is look for weaknesses in the army, such as long range firepower, close quarters combat, things that your sisters cannot do well, and have your ally compensate for that. They will be that dedicated unit that you need to do it. Now, that all being said, let's move on to aircrafts. Sisters of Battle need, and if this isn't in the codex, I swear I'm going to be very, very nettled, need aircrafts. This is the Avenger Strike Fighter. This is a Forge World unit that has the Burt gun as well as 2 las cannons. This is an extremely, extremely efficient flyer. It has sisters flying it if you look inside the cockpit itself. Those are women, which were custom made. This was painted up by a good friend and supporter of the channel by the name of Rockstar Sanguinius. This thing is insane. I got 2 more of them. I just built them up, and I cannot wait to have all of them on the battlefield. I want to run a unit of 3 of these, and by a unit, I mean an air wing detachment of 3 of these. It doesn't really fill any of the roles that the sisters can and cannot do. It's just kind of amusing to have them back in the codex. Granted, they are Imperial Guard units, and thus you cannot get them with any abilities of the Adeptus Sororitas, because Games Workshop, for some reason, took away that keyword, and I will never understand why. And that makes me very sad, Games Workshop. Give us a freaking flyer back. Give us the Avenger Strike Fighter back. Now, let's get this back on its overly sized giant base, which is, if you saw, taller than the Imperial Knight. Made it so that this thing can't be hit with flamethrowers. Now, granted, I do have a legit-sized base for it, a legit-sized flight stick for it, that works perfectly fine for it. Now, one of the things that I try to do when I build an allied detachment is try to keep it under a few hundred points, with the bulk of the army still being Sisters of Battle. Like, if I'm at 2,000 points, I'll dedicate maybe at most 700 points to an ally, unless it's an Imperial Knight, in which case I will bring this guy. Because I really like this guy. He's adorable. Look at him. He's got a yellow face. He's got 2 mouth guns next to him. He's got fish on him. Anyway, guys, I hope this video was informative. Keep in mind that these combos are meant to be efficient, not super competitive. And if you have any comments about allies that you have taken or allies that you would want me to cover, please comment in the comment section down below. Comment your thoughts on this video itself. Comment what you think is the best ally. Comment what you want in an ally. Comment if you've done something similar to what I've talked about in this video. Also, while you're down in the comments, please check the description for this video. In there, you can find all the links to my social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and you can also find me on Patreon. Patreon goes a long way to help supporting the channel. It lets me get cool stuff like this guy. It also lets me do these battle reports and continue the channel growing as it goes into the future. And there's also exclusive videos on there, the newest one being a photo shoot that I did, which included my Adeptus Sororitas armor, my Repentia cosplay, as well as some lewd stuff. Anyway, guys, I'm Alexis the Eco Queen. I love you guys. Bye.